Adding this quarterback data, Matt, really is a powerful tool when it combines with your data. And that's what I want to talk about with Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson. If you don't think he's got one of them incoming, FU seasons incoming, bro, like, come on, man, like, wake up.
Obviously, it's going to be big time vertical throws, and you're going to get Garrett Wilson on those after catch stuff, but it's going to be those base over the middle routes where Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers are really going to have it.
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
Maybe the greatest catch I've ever seen.
I just want to jump into that right now, but this is, you talked about it and hinted at it, but that's, I think, adding this quarterback data, Matt, really is a powerful tool when it combines with your data. And that's what I want to talk about with Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson. But first, let's set the table. Okay, this is what Derek Klassen wrote about Aaron Rodgers. Quote, touchdown to check down was Rodgers' only mode of operation last year. 41% of his pass attempts went deep. 53.5% of his passes went for 5 yards or less. Only 5.8% of his throws went to that intermediate area of the field, 11 to 15 yards in that range. All right, so now how does his data from what you saw, Matt, kind of pair up with what Garrett Wilson does well?
Yeah, the first thing that stood out to me, and Derek is so right about the, touchdown to check down type thing. And sometimes the at least early in the season when he'd rip those like go routes to, Alan Lazard or Romeo Doubs. And some people said they were, I think Justice Mosqueda would say he'd let off one performative deep route, run performative deep pass whenever he was starting to get frustrated. Aaron Rodgers, for one, I do think I buy into the idea that Rodgers moving on from Green Bay and getting this fresh start with New York and being there with his boy Nathaniel Hackett, who he's going to bat for, in the media after the whole Sean Payton thing. I think he really is going to be a little more dialed in, committed, settled. I do buy into all that.
How could you not? First of all, he restructured his contract to be more team friendly all of a sudden. Crazy stuff. If you don't think he's got one of them incoming, FU seasons incoming, bro, like, come on, man, like, wake up, dude. This guy is absolutely going middle fingers to the sky, and he's going to try to prove everybody wrong, and especially the dudes in Green Bay. But I want to get back to, again, some of the charting data that Derek found here. All right, so I talked about 5.8 of his throws went to 11 to the 11 to 15 yard range. That is almost half the rate of the next lowest quarterback, Derek Carr, at 10.9%. So that gives you an idea of how little he used that intermediate area of the field. But Matt, talk to me about what Garrett Wilson kind of sort of brings in that, again, that middle part of the field. And do you see Rodgers maybe kind of adjusting his game a little bit to what Garrett Wilson does?
So first of all, and I think this again is the marriage of the quarterback and the wide receiver, because who was Aaron Rodgers' best pass catcher last year by a country mile? It was Christian Watson. And we know that Christian Watson's skill set is he's going to win in those gadgety stuff in the check, some screens, design plays to get him in space. Where Christian Watson struggles is that intermediate area of the field. So more of the base NFL routes, the dig routes. He's about league average on curl routes, breaking off against man coverage. Comeback routes, no good for Christian Watson. Slant routes, he's got to get a little bit more detailed, getting off the line of scrimmage against man coverage. I think that Rodgers number really lines up with, again, that's the fact that that's the best receiver. Targets per route run were crazy for Christian Watson, but he was, at least as a rookie, maybe he gets better there as a second year, third year, fourth year player, etc. He was not good on those base routes on the intermediate area of the field. And I think that's part of this. And obviously the rest of the guys there, Romeo Doubs is not doing that. Alan Lazard is not doing that. So that's not their roles either. But you flip that over to Garrett Wilson. I mean, this guy's good everywhere, right? And I think the real area where they're going to connect, you look at Rodgers, the data from Derek Klassen, the success rate on slant routes is incredibly high through those routes a lot, 20.2% route percentage were slants for Aaron Rodgers. The flat was obviously really high, but the dig route, 7.5% success rate there, not a lot of usage, right? Only 1.6% there for Aaron Rodgers. That's where I think him and Garrett Wilson, much like him and Devontae Adams, are going to make money on like those routes. Garrett Wilson, 83.7% success rate on slants, 78.8% success rate on dig routes. I think that's really where, if they're going to be a connection that puts Garrett Wilson among like the 10 most productive receivers in the NFL this year, obviously it's going to be big time vertical throws, and you're going to get Garrett Wilson on those after catch stuff, but it's going to be those base over the middle routes where Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers are really going to have to connect.
Okay, so 89.8% slant route success rate for Aaron Rodgers. That's just phenomenal, right? And and again, Klassen pointed this out as well, that he's always loved throwing the slant. And I think that obviously is going to pair very well with what Garrett Wilson does. But I think where you want to get excited is you hinted at it right there, Matt, is right over the top, right? Rodgers excelled over the top with a 87.5% corner success rate and a 52% success rate on the nines, right? So that to me suggests with what Garrett Wilson does over the top, I think that's going to be, again, a very high profile and a very productive connection between the two men.
It's just really interesting the way they're set up, because their defense, I think, is one of these defenses that's not every year there's some great defense that pops up, and all of a sudden, right, they regress because it was really turnover based. That was really not the Jets last year. They weren't like a high turnover defense. They were just like a low yards per play, like really stopping you, putting pressure on the quarterback. Quinnen Williams obviously had a fantastic season, was rightly rewarded with the big time contract. They got Sauce Gardner. They've got players all over the defense, right? I think that defense is going to be good. And really, it's just not going to take the funny thing about projecting these guys for fantasy and stuff like that is that it's not really going to take this offense being very voluminous or like a ton of guys have to step up, because I think the defense is going to be good, and I think they'll run the ball well when Breece Hall is healthy, or if they sign Dalvin Cook, I guess, whatever. It's really just about being efficient between Rodgers and Wilson. And I think the quarterback charting data from Aaron Rodgers and certainly the reception perception data for Garrett Wilson, it just lines up so well. Garrett Wilson and where he runs his routes and where he's successful from a vertical sense, but in the intermediate and over the middle areas too, he's going to unlock Aaron Rodgers that just like, again, as good of a player as Christian Watson is, he was not that guy last year. And obviously beyond Garrett Wilson, ironically, a lot of these boys are on the damn Jets now, between like Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb, but they do have Corey Davis too. Nobody in Green Bay last year was able to do what Garrett Wilson is able to do.
Garrett Wilson, 65% success rate on 9 routes last year. Matt, are you kidding me, bro? Like what? Yeah. That's unreal. Come on. I don't know what the league average is, or what the league average was in 2022. But I would say like anything above, 55% success rate on the 9 is really good. And here comes Garrett Wilson with the 65% success rate on those 9 routes, man. Like, and again, when you pair that with what Aaron Rodgers did in 2022, there is a lot to get excited about.